Welcome to the Kashmir Notebook, a special frontline broadcast with Gowhar Geelani, and this is the 6th episode. In this episode, we are talking about an important topic, which is Kashmir's horticulture and apple industry, the losses suffered by this industry during the recent floods and earlier because of the hailstorm. And to discuss all this, we have an important and outstanding guest who is also an outspoken commentator, an economist and a banker, Mr. Dr. Ejaz Ayoub. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ejaz.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
So we wanted to understand from you that a lot is being talked about Kashmir's horticulture, Kashmir's agriculture, and the losses, as if the frontline visited at least 4 districts of South Kashmir, and we saw how the farmers were worried, the apple growers and orchardists were worried because of the losses they suffered during the recent floods and because of the closure of the Srinagar-Jammu highway. So first, let us know that how big is this industry in terms of its contribution to the Jammu and Kashmir's economy and gross domestic product?
We need to look at it from 2 perspectives. One is its absolute contribution to the overall GSDP of J&K and the number of people dependent on it. So from first perspective, if we see, it contributes almost the economic services, 10,000 crores to the
J&K economic
J&K economy. But they say that it's the entire horticulture sector. Horticulture also means other products like you have walnuts, you have cherries, you have other things.
Yeah.
Right. That is one formal number that has come from the economic survey. But besides that, there is also evidence from different transactions that take place from mandis, from different sources. If we collectively consolidate those figures, the number is much bigger. Apple alone is assumed to be contributing more than 12,000. Not just the horticulture, apple alone. So that is one big number. That is much bigger than what your tourism contributes to J&K economy, which has always been in the news on the front pages about the tourism, the importance of tourism.
Yeah. Before you complete your thought, my second question would have been this: that why in the media narratives we always hear about tourism being the backbone of Kashmir's economy, when experts like you and others have been suggesting that it's actually the agriculture, horticulture sector. So why in the media narrative?
Because of the visibility, because it has amplification impact, and plus it has certain political consequences also, as in terms of showcasing normalcy, showcasing, for example, if we talk about pulling an investment to any place, if there is more news coming about peaceful tourism and regular growth in tourism, the investments follow. So it always makes sense for the government, for the officials to amplify that number and compare to apples and farmers and other things. But having said that, the fact remains, if we see only the last 3 decades alone, we have seen, despite so many ups and downs, be it climatic changes, be it political upheavals, the backbone has continued to be agriculture and primarily driven by horticulture. I was talking about the second perspective. That is the number of people associated. Again, quoting the same economic survey, they quoted around 35 lakh people in J&K, which is a current population of around 1.4 crore. And it's a sizable number, which means almost a quarter of a population is dependent on just one
directly
product,
or indirectly,
on apples. So that is how important it is. And anything happening to it in terms of its income generating capacity, production, or due to many reasons, like you quoted some reasons, due to the logistical challenges, or due to the climatic challenges, or due to the DGFT lowering rates for other apples, it has a direct bearing on a sizable population of the region.
So, Dr. Ejaz, I also want to understand, and our audiences in South India also want to understand, that when it comes to assessing the losses suffered during any such eventuality like the floods or earlier the hailstorm or other, disasters, what is the authentic and credible way of assessing these losses? Why don't we have, something like a think tank or economic surveys, very reliable surveys. Like I was reading, a lot of experts or fruit growers and orchardists have been saying like the losses are worth 200 crores. Some say 400 crores.
Some
say 7,000 crores.
Yeah.
So it's like, 700 crores, sorry. So these are like from 200 to 700. It's a huge gap.
Huge gap.
So what kind of a figure should we quote, and what is the reliable way of finding or assessing the damages caused due to any calamity?
The prime assumption on which these numbers are thrown from mandis is the number of trucks. So the truck normally values at 10 to 15 lakhs depending upon the market. So the number of trucks that are right now, it's being said that I read a news item, I think Hindu had only quoted it, at Fruit Growers Association have said that there's a loss of around 1,000 crores. But I think that is an exaggerated number. It's not the right number, because the entire industry is just 10,000 crores, and 1,000 crores just because of 1 week of rainfall, you cannot have that much of a loss. So I think again, because this place has lack of private think tanks, and the entire onus is on the government to collect that data, and they totally rely on from the district commissioners and other, and that is not scientific at all. The way you should be collecting data, that's I totally agree. The variation is a lot. Then how do you come across? You come across proxy data points, for example, and those data points come after the event has happened. For example, if we take this year's harvest, so there are things like bank transactions, there are proxy data points like tax collections, there is proxy data collection like consumption that takes place. So these are indirect proxy data collection, not the direct ones. Direct ones are just very wild numbers thrown by every association or every party. The government is not having a mechanism in place wherein they can have a credible number that because of this hailstorm, this is the amount of loss, or because of this road disconnection in the road connectivity, this is the amount. I totally agree with it.
So Dr. Ejaz, what we understood on the ground, like for example, we visited, Shopaya, which is sort of a fruit bowl of Jammu and Kashmir. And then there is Sopore in North Kashmir, another fruit mandi. So the farmers were saying like one loss was like what the rainfall did to the apples. And second was because the trucks, fruit laden trucks got stuck on the Srinagar Jammu highway.
Yes.
And that's why at that time they said that the high density apples, which their shelf life is very low, very low. And that on that account they suffered. And then there were no takers for their new crop, which was the delicious Kullu delicious, for example.
Correct.
And then we went to Pulwama and Budgam districts, or Anantnag district has suffered huge losses on account of how the rainfall or the floods affected the paddy field. So that is agriculture sector. So in terms of, I'm just trying to understand how can we just throw these numbers without having a proper assessment, because this is still like happening. People are still suffering. And how come did we come with such numbers without having an overall assessment of the situation?
That is the sad story, because we have a full-fledged department of economics and statistics, and it primarily depends on the data from the district commissioner's office. That is the mechanism and the boots on the ground who collect these data, it's very limited. The infrastructure for data collection and surveys, it doesn't happen scientifically the way it should have been. That is totally there. But I think unless and until you don't understand the amount of losses in terms of numbers, you won't be able to come up with a strategy for rehabilitation or maybe something else. So that's why our policies, whatever we frame in terms of our budgets, in terms of our allocations towards agriculture sector, they may be, that's why there's a mismatch between these things. That's because the numbers are not coming in the proper shape the way it should be.
So we have this like the Kashmir Chamber of Commerce, for example. Right. So they also give their own numbers, and then the fruit growers associations give their own numbers. There, as you said, there are a lot of variations. So let me come to another aspect. For the last some couple of days, the fruit mandis shut in protest, and they were like sort of accusing the Umar Abdullah-led government of not doing enough. Or their MLAs not joining them in protest, or not doing anything for the fruit-laden trucks which have got stuck. Now, thankfully, I think they have this cargo train has been introduced. So how do you see the responsibility of the government in this sort of a crisis situation to deal with this, so that there is no farmer distress? Because there's a lot of, as you said, a lot of population, a good section of population or their families depend directly or indirectly on this sector.
the biggest thing that railway was bringing on table was mitigating the risk of being not an all-weather connectivity between
Srinagar and Jammu.
Kashmir and the rest of the country. So that one thing, if that was one big USP that we were bringing, why was it not discussed 6 months back when we know the train was coming? Why was cargo not the first thing on the table? Although that has been announced, but I think it's too little, too late. So two, I think only units will be carrying. So if there is something which can help us mitigate this risk, we won't be dependent on Jawahar Tunnel always for this movement of goods. So I think that is something which needs to be pushed very heavily. I remember few previous governments announced something called as a dry port, or the central axis to that dry port was a railway connectivity. So that discussion again happened, I think, even under the LG government since 2019 when we had no representatives in the assembly. Why is that not being discussed? We need a dry port. Our agricultural products are perishable. They are not. We are not manufacturing iPhones, right? We are manufacturing perishable items. It is very time sensitive, and that's what we are currently facing. Huge costs. Even if it's not 1,000 crore which is being quoted, it's in crores, hundreds of crores. We are facing losses. Why is that not the first priority of the government? You are a landlocked place. You are a border state. You don't have any other region connected with you on the right or left. You just have to go through Jammu. And if there is railway coming in, there's no point if we don't discuss movement of our products, perishable items to the rest of the country. I think that needs to be the first and the most important priority of the government.
So, Dr. Ejaz, do you also feel that there's this narrative about Srinagar-Jammu highway being the all-weather road, which it is not, because if it shuts down in August, if it shuts down in September, it's certainly not all-weather. And these things keep happening, especially in winters. So this is not something that happens once in a decade. This happens like almost
frequently, even not year, within a year, it happens 3-4 times. We are not, like you said, it's not a winter time. It's almost summer.
Autumn has not.
Autumn is not, right. So we agree that the roads condition has improved a lot, but it's still not a reliable connectivity. So can you risk the entire economy on a connectivity link, which is right now it's the harvest time? If it's not
prone to landslides,
we have seen just 1 week of ugly weather. We saw what happened. There are places where the entire highways have washed away.
So we did the last program, Frontline, in fact, did the last program on this ecology, because it was something what happened in Kishtwar or in Vaishno Devi or Riyasi, Ramban, and in Jammu, parts of Jammu or Peer Panchal and the Chenab Valley. So let me come to another question. What needs to be done to understand how important the horticulture sector and particularly the apple industry is for Kashmir, and then, taking those steps in the right direction so that the same crisis does not, is not in your face again and again every year?
I think there are 2-3 things. It's a holistic approach that needs to be adopted, and fortunately, some parts of it are being adopted in a very collaborated manner. The government is providing subsidies, the people are investing. I'm talking about the storage facilities, like the cold storage. We have seen since last 10-15 years, there has been tremendous amount of growth in carrying capacity of the region, how much apples we can store, even if we are not able to transport. When the prices are down, how we are able to transport, there has been tremendous amount of growth. But we need to augment that capacity even more. That is one. Second is crop insurance, which our apples are still not being able to qualify for it. That is,
so insurance is a big
thing that saves our farmers from from tragedies like which are not in their control. Which are not in their control. Your climates, your road, right? So the insurance is second thing that can provide. Third thing is, which also has been to some extent facilitated, is the availability of credit. The credit flow towards this sector, primarily by a lot of regional banks, has been really good. So I think the most important thing among all these is the logistical support, which I said. You need a dry port, you need an all-weather connectivity in the form of rail, because your road is not reliable. So I think these 4 or 5 things.
So one, insurance, second, this logistics, third, the augmentation,
the facilities, the cold storage facilities, the amount of capacity that we have, it needs to be improved a lot.
Okay. So there is also this debate how much employment does this industry generate? Do you have any credible data to suggest that this number of people are being employed, if not permanently, but temporarily, in terms of seasons, whether it be the marketing part, whether it be the logistic transport, insecticides, pesticides, and other, related,
Right.
sectors?
We have one big number which is being always used across, which is being collected by the government. That's why we have to rely on it. It is that 35 lakh people are dependent on it, but these are family members included.
3.5 million.
Correct. So if we have an average family size of five here, so
Yes.
which means 7 lakh people are directly deriving employment, and indirectly their families are dependent on it. And if we see the entire supply chain, like you talk about, the seeds, the your fertilizers, and the logistics, it collectively, if we see, it's around, if we see the commercial transport aspect of it, it's around 10 lakh people. There is no credible data point. There is one credible data point which I talked about, is the economic survey, and then we have around 3 lakh people with commercial transport. Even if we see only 33% associated with the movement of these goods, because it's the biggest industry that you have. So again, 1 lakh people from there are deriving, and then you have another couple of lakh people in trading. Your trading employs around 10 lakh people in J&K. So around 2 lakh people are deriving trading employment from the agriculture and allied activities. So collectively, we can say safely that minimum it's 10 lakh people who are dependent on it.
In India, for example, there many they also export apples from Iran or
Right.
America.
Right.
So how much of it's like the need of Indian market? How much Kashmir contributes to it in terms of apple harvest?
25 lakh metric tons we produce, I think.
Which is roughly how percentage of the total?
The total, I don't have a figure right now, but I would say two things have happened of late. Since last 10-15 years, the DGFT, which helps in protecting agricultural produce by way of tariffs as a barrier, making apples procured from other countries a bit costlier, giving a little bit of ease for our farmers to sell their produce in the mainland. One big threat that initially used to come is from Washington apples. From south, if you talk about Maharashtra, those markets used to be flooded by American apples. And now, since last 5-6 years, you have Iranian apples also coming. In terms of standardization, because they are, in terms of agricultural advancement, technologically, they are much better compared to J&K. So the level of quality in terms of, I'm not debating on the taste, ours will be better, but the level of quality and size and standardization of these apples is much better. So the prices that we used to charge, you are in a competition, now you are fetching less income. Even if your production has gone up, but the absolute value of money that comes to your state through apples has actually not gone with the same speed, in the same proportion, because the DGFT has lowered tariff barriers and these apples are flooding the mainland market. That's what is happening.
So my last two questions, very small. One is that you also talked about cold storage.
Right.
How important is this controlled atmosphere, like high density apples, and also storing apples? We have some cold storage in south and north.
Right.
How important it is this? And then I'll come back to the last question.
See, for example, if I tell you there is a humongous amount of production of apples in this season. So currently the availability is much higher. And in the off season, when we move towards January, February, March, and when the apple production is less, if those people who have stored their apples, surplus production in these, they are able to fetch 200 to 300% extra prices. The amount of money that they pay as rentals to these, it's marginal. So in terms of value creation, it is going to multiply your income, apple income. If you have good carrying capacity, obviously if you have more carrying capacity, the prices of storage will come even down. So then the off season, when your peak season is not there, you will be able to fetch much higher income. So that, I think, is very elemental for improving the income capacity of our apples.
So the last question, and also your concluding thoughts. One is that as an economist, because you also write articles and columns for various publications on economy specifically, is that like the politically if you hear the opposition voices, they say government has done nothing. The Umar Abdullah-led government has done nothing. But if you hear the MLAs from the ruling party, they are all over Instagram Reels and Twitter and X space and all social media space that they have done this thing, but then there are fruit growers who are also complaining. So how you, when you will decide to write about this topic, how do you take all these views into consideration and try to reach the balanced point of view?
I think from Apple economy point of view, there has been a realization among the policymakers. I think since last 2 decades, there has been a focus. I am acknowledging it. Apple orchards were not that much in fashion, or people were not going towards this. A lot of agricultural land was growing paddy. This was the continuous push by any government, be it your PDP successive governments, they have been pushing. And you could see that through budgeting allocations, that the subsidies towards these and the push towards pushing the banks towards supplying credit. So the Apple economy has been a central piece of the government since last 20-25 years. But it's not just that the farmer should get credit, money in his hands, and he should be growing. But he needs to be facilitated so that his produce reaches the market
in time.
And it reaches. He is also being used handheld, supported for marketing, packaging, other things. So I would say push is there, but the policy needs to be done. Like I talked about, the central piece in this entire thing is logistics. Your dry port, it has to be there. There's no solution for it.
So yeah, thank you very much for talking to us, and thank you for being this articulate.